We all have goals or things we would like to achieve or to improve. This could be making a game, learning a new skill, or just starting a new hobby. But often for some reason we end up doing nothing or not long enough. Often we experience the feeling of being paralyzed or having some kind of block, or we are just simply too busy with work and university to do something. The result of that is that we feel bad, guilty, and that we don't achieve the goals that we aspired to achieve in the beginning. So, in this video I would like to tell you about my strategies of coping with those issues that I found work for me the best, and hopefully you can take one or two things from them. Personally, I identified 3 kinds of issues that cause me to have a block or that make me feel paralyzed. The first issue is that you probably know what to do, but you don't know where to start. In those times, you probably understand the amount of work that is required to achieve your goal, and you just fail to see where to start and where to lay the first building blocks. If this applies to you, try to follow the principles of divide and conquer. Suppose you want to create a game that has 10 complicated mechanics. Personally, I would tend to overcomplicate things by overanalyzing and trying to figure out which mechanic would be best to implement first. I realized that it's not so important where you start, but more so that you make progress. So, I would recommend you to pick the mechanic that you think you would enjoy the most, and if you cannot see which one this would be, just pick any at random. Now, after reducing the scope of what we want to implement, let's take an even closer look and try to divide into even more subtasks. You should repeat the process of dividing the problems into smaller subproblems until you start feeling comfortable with the amount of volume each task has. Ideally, each task should be able to be completed in a couple of minutes and shouldn't take more than a couple of hours to complete. After that, everything boils down to consistency. Set a goal to complete one task every day, no matter how small, and stick to it. Feel free to do more than one task per day, but just make sure not to burn yourself out. Don't ever pressure yourself by comparing what you did on the previous time compared to today. We will always have times where things are more difficult or more easy for us. So really just make sure to finish your mandatory task that you set for the day. Also, if your tasks can be divided into different categories, then make sure to pick tasks of different categories every day. This prevents you from avoiding tasks you don't really want to do by procrastinating by doing only tasks of one category. The next problem that I identified is that you just don't have a clue what to do next. To me, this is the most annoying problem which I struggle the most with. My solution to this usually is to take a long break to allow my mind to wander around to catch some new fresh ideas. However, if this doesn't work, I would start looking into getting some inspiration from what other people did. Most usually you will end up finding something that you think would be cool to have in your own project as well. Don't be afraid or think that you are cheating by getting inspired of other people's work. In any way, this will allow you to learn a lot by doing new things, as well as allow you to learn more about your project and what fits it and what doesn't. However, if you follow this advice and end up having something that is a clear copy of something different, then make sure to give enough credit to the original source and try to find a way to make whatever you copied your own by adding maybe some new mechanics or altering some things here and there. Another reason why we maybe don't know what to do next is because we have too high expectations of what we want to do. Often the reason is that you are trying to create a perfect masterpiece that in your mind would change the whole business and amaze the people in it. I believe that this will just end up pressuring you and that it would be much better to focus on creating something that only you would personally really like. This leads me to the third problem. You compare yourself to others and you are doing it in an unhealthy way. First, you need to realize that you are noticing amazing people only while they are being amazing. You don't know if it took them maybe 5 years or more to even start what they are doing at the moment. If you dig into those people's history, I can promise you that you will find at least some that probably had an awful or really cringe-worthy start. But at some point they decided that they don't need to be perfect right away, and they just focused on being consistent instead. If you cannot help but to compare yourself to others, then at least try to do it in a healthy way. Instead of getting intimidated by those people, try to use them as a source of inspiration and see how you can learn a few things from them. Also, you could try to think of them as competitors and prove yourself that you are able to beat them. Try to think of it as if you are playing a video game against each other, just make sure not to be toxic about it. After all, the most important thing is that you have fun while you are working on your project. This is why I also encourage you to get to know them and to listen to their stories. Who knows, you might even end up making a couple of new friends, so it really doesn't hurt. So to conclude everything, it is really important to realize that all those points I mentioned are life decisions. You need to remind yourself over and over again to follow those principles. Also, there is no way you can improve if you don't leave your comfort zone. And sometimes you need to be honest to yourself and to sacrifice old habits that are preventing you from creating room for new good ones. So if you want to follow your dreams, you need to make the effort to make room for them. I know it may sound harsh, but most importantly is, don't be too harsh on yourself. Accept that you will struggle even while understanding those points, or even if they may seem super obvious. Even if what I'm doing doesn't seem super impressive to a lot of people, it still took me many years to finally start doing what I'm doing now, even while wanting it for so many years. And so, this is my experience, and I hope at least some people can take a few things from it. Of course, you should take everything I say with a grain of salt, but those are just the things that really changed my life and worked for me. And ultimately, I would be satisfied if even just one person would gain from this video. In any way, this was quite different from my usual devlogs. Also, this video took me almost 2 weeks to produce, so feel free to comment and let me know what you think about it. In any way, as usual, thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a wonderful week, and I'll be back on Sunday. So until then, bye bye!